Welcome to Rooted and Divine with me, Caitlin Payne, a podcast for women ready to shed old identities, heal, and align with their soul. Each week, we'll explore spiritual growth, healing, and personal stories that empower you to embody your truth. Rooted in humanity and fully alive as a divine soul. Hello, beautiful sisters. I just wanted to start at the top of the episode and really introduce Debs properly. We have a really amazing conversation about Debs and what she's here to offer in the world. Debs is a womb shaman, a spiritual guide, and a mentor for women dedicated to feminine empowerment, cyclical wisdom, and womb healing through deep emotional, energetic, and spiritual work. With over 25 years of experience holding sacred space for women, she's on a mission to guide soul-led magical women into embodying their divine feminine light by reclaiming the sacred power of their womb. Debs writes, having witnessed firsthand the transformative power of women reclaiming their womb as an oracle and spiritual compass, I've seen how this journey activates their sovereignty, inner power, and cyclical wisdom. This connection to nature and the seasons weaves through all of her programs, guiding women to embrace their natural rhythms. And that is exactly what Debs and I talk about today, is the beautiful link between the cycles, the women's cycle, your follicular, your luteal, your bleed, your summer, your ovulation, and then also how that ties into the seasons of the earth: winter, spring, summer, autumn, and all of the archetypes that go with that. And she has lived a beautiful life and has gone through many different experiences, and we can definitely benefit and learn from her wisdom. So I'm so excited for you guys. I think it is around minute 50. Debs will take us into one of her quantum womb healing activations. So you can listen to this while you are driving, while you're walking. And if you are in a quiet space, you can close your eyes and really drop into the body. But this is her beautiful shaman side coming out, and I love it so much. So I hope you guys enjoy. I really enjoyed this conversation. She's such a magical human and really a guardian, I feel, of the earth. So enjoy. Beautiful Deborah Stanley, or also known as Debs. I am so happy you're here. Thank you for choosing to be on the Rooted and Divine podcast.
Divine to be here. Gorgeous to connect with you, my love.
Yes, Deborah and I met through a mutual friend, and I, this last summer, went to Glastonbury with some women and connected with Debs because it felt really important to me that as I went to Glastonbury, I just kept getting told that I needed to be greeted by a woman of the land. And because it felt like a pilgrimage of what we were going on. And that's really where my relationship started with Deb. I had done a few of her online little offerings before, but she hosted the most beautiful ceremony for my friends and I, and really dropped us into the magic of the land. And she really holds so many codes of, I feel like, our ancestors, because so many of us in that group were primarily from that land.
Wow.
So Debs, thank you so much. I just love you. And I also went to one of her retreats this summer in North Carolina, and it was absolutely incredible. So I just think the world of you.
Oh, thank you, my love. Feeling like we're in the room together, giving you a big hug, even though I'm in the UK and you're across the ocean.
Across the pond. So tell us about you, Debs. Tell us who you are, what you're passionate about.
Okay, so I'm a womb shaman, and I've become fondly known as the womb whisperer. I seem to have this gift through transmission, through my voice, through the womb activations, and guiding people with my drum, and just the healing. I'm a master healer, so just the healing that comes through that, of just actually waking up women's womb power, waking up women to their womb power. And I just feel really passionately that, we're just sort of emerging out of the heavy blanket. I don't, you could think of other words for it, but of a patriarchal hold. And the way forward isn't something that we can just kind of, pull out of you know, you can't Google it, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm,
We have
mm-hmm.
to embody some codes. We have to embody something that actually is about a deep remembering of our essence and our source codes. And I feel that in order to birth a new world, the one piece that has been so sabotaged through that whole patriarchal hold is around women and around their connection to their womb power, their womb wisdom. That's not just through, I know where I am in my menstrual cycle. It's deeper than that. It's more profound than that. And it's not really something that you could even put into words, but it's more about accessing their feminine power through that, rather than, oh, I know how to meditate and connect to source codes, out there, up there. It's actually about bringing that light body in to the physical and anchoring that new whole vibratory, template into the earth grids, into the dragon lines of Gaia, so that actually as we, evolve and we live into our light, Gaia feels that pulse, and her ascension is it's like a symbiotic relationship with that. And I think having, my background, I don't know how long you want me to talk about that for, but
Yeah, I was gonna say that was
I,
my next question is how did you come to that how was your journey
yeah,
coming back to your womb powder? What did that look like?
yeah. So I think we always kind of fall into our deepest medicine is where our deepest wounds are. And for me, it was, this kind of straight sort of, patriarchal family and lineage where women were kind of second class citizens, actually. My mum was a typical 60s bride, and she lived for just baking the meringues and, you looking good on the surface. But, underneath she was probably crumbling, bless her. And, they did what they thought was right. They sent her to these expensive schools, but it was a convent. And the shutdown ultimately that I received from one, being taken away from my family and having to sort of just suppress those emotions, and being in a family that emotions weren't welcome, unless they were happy ones, unless you were achieving or, singing from the
Mm-hmm,
rooftops,
mm-hmm.
anything else was sort of, no, thank you, go to your room. And so that combined with this boarding school convent, initiation into from 11, so into my blossoming and my menarche, being shown graphic videos of abortion aged 13 by these nuns, I mean, just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that those rites of passage were just far from honored. And so my relationship to my cycles were just kind of pretty much non-existent. It was just like, boom. I was quite late when I came to my menarche, my first bleed. I was nearly 16. So my body was kind of more developed. So I was like, oh, I could just use a tampon. So there was this just numbing to anything about it that made it a different day from anything else. And I didn't really suffer with my cycles. So it was just kind of like, just get on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think, just the times that I grew up in that sort of, yeah, I guess collective field, was just, you didn't connect to the sacredness of the feminine. Feminine was seen as a weakness in a way. It was much more about doing and pushing. And I grew up in that kind of, around the 80s with this ladette culture of like, just be a boy, be a tomboy. So I was there with my kind of, my motorbikes racing around London, and then later, like, chainsaw. It's just like, part of me was like a real warrior, and that's how I knew how to cope with life and how to be, how to get through, was to be able to be in my masculine and sort of, push forward. Not that I was really into, I guess, a career with that. I was always an artist. And so there was this inner battle, I guess. I'm just feeling that now, actually. Yeah, this inner battle that kind of really didn't really sort of kind of stand up needing addressing until I moved into this woodland with my kid's dad and lived off grid, where I was able to really commune with the seasons, microdose day by day as they shift, and recognizing that previously, prior to that, I'd always jump ship. I'd always be abroad in the UK winters. I'd always be India, South America, just doing glamorous, gorgeous things with my work or training, but always seeking the sun and the light, and actually just recognizing as I lived off grid and as I gave birth to these babies, wild birth them in this wood, how much I resisted this stillness and quiet, how I'd always needed music and noise, just distraction, just avoidance ultimately. And when I was in this wood, it became so clear to me that there was a big disparity between the sort of Shiva Shakti ancestral templates of the land there. It was kind of, working man's wood. And I arrived with my kind of bump and curve and music and fluff and women and, doing sacred ceremonies and things. And it was like, whoa, what are they doing? It was like a real Oberon and Titania, play that was kind of being, played out in real time. And it was such a battle. I had to be in my warrior, I thought, in order for the feminine to have her place, to have her voice, to have the sacredness honored. And it was just such a battle. It was exhausting. Yeah. I can feel my body switching off as I say that. And ultimately, through that battle, I got to create finally this, goddess temple, and that women came and we had gong baths and retreats and yoga, and I was doing all this womb training and everything kind of got Shaktified. But the lesson really was for me to embody a softness and a stillness, and to surrender to the cycles of the season, and to really embody the medicine of the seasons, and to come more into my queen as an embodiment, not the queen that needs to go out into the battleground with the kind of off with their heads, but more the queen that actually can just be in her majesty, in her sovereignty, sit on her throne, wear her crown. And just by how and what she embodies through that, she pulses out this signal of, the chaos is out there, and I magnetize what I need towards me rather than me having to push and fight and strive for it, which is what, I'd grown up with. And so I think an alchemy of all of that has really distilled itself. And through the journey of menopause, which is very much about coming into your queen codes, your queen energy, and embodying that through that initiation, that's what has distilled itself into the body of work that I now share, which is allowing women to come home to themselves, honor the cyclical wisdom within them, but also within, Gaia's menstrual cycle of her inner spring, summer, autumn, winter, that sort of seasonal cyclical wisdom, embody that, do the inner work continually, committed to your own growth, looking at those codes of your maiden, your mother, your queen, your crone. You have all of them within you, and really weaving with that yin and yang, the inner feminine and masculine dynamics within you, using womb as your oracle, as your spiritual compass, that through working with her, and she has these specific, light portals, I call them, within her, activating those, they're like jewels that have been sort of suppressed, and there's all this sediment on top. And really, we're sort of carrying the lineage red threads of our ancestors. You only have to look at your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother, any aunts, and just see what kind of what their suffering has been, what their struggling has been around their relationship to their womb, whether that's through their menarche journey, their relationship to their sexuality, their expression of their feminine voice, their relationship to their body, their sovereignty, their fertility stories, their birth stories, maybe loss, their journey through motherhood, around, and for me, it also came around, recognizing that, women, the second-class citizen thing, this kind of like, women in my lineage didn't have careers, they didn't own houses, they weren't kind of, but I also wasn't seeking to be a kind of boss babe and like,
Yeah,
a kind
yeah.
of hard-hearted corporate woman, that was never going to be my timeline. So yeah, just really allowing women to unpack some of this stuff, this charge that they've inherited, that they're sitting with, that they've, you know, journeyed through the oppression of, the suppression of those codes coming online, beginning to awaken that so that there's just more joy, pleasure, magnetism, flow, just more kind of like deliciousness in how they live their
Mhm.
lives, more feeling of like, I'm connected to earth. I'm at one with earth. I'm an earth guardian. Through my cyclical wisdom, my gifts come online and I work symbiotically with Gaia and I heal my, templates, my ancestral templates. And we're doing this together and in community, like this toroidal flow, of I fill
Yes.
up my cup and then I serve my community, then they get filled up and they serve me right back. And it's just this ongoing reciprocity and symbiotic relationship. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. There's so many things I want to tease out. And for those who feel new to this information, can you give a little outline of the maiden, mother, queen, and crone, and why embodying those archetypes are important and where they fit within our span, like our life cycle?
Yeah, sure. So, your maiden timelines, you can look at them in a kind of linear timelines, but you also
Hmm.
need to understand that you hold all of these
Yes.
within you and you get to experience them in the menstrual cycle, in the lunar phases, in the seasons of the year, the wheel of the year. But ultimately, your maiden is between, conception and your Saturn return, so around 28 through till 31. Your mother timelines are between, you know, Saturn return and say 45, 40, 45. Your queen codes take you up till 65, 70, and then your crone is, your elder years. And I
Hmm.
think what's amazing is that people are recognizing now that just because they've been through menopause, just because their kids have flown the nest, it doesn't mean they're in crone. That's like
Hmm. Hmm.
that for me is like, it feels like a long way off. I'm in queen.
Yeah.
And Queen has a beautiful relationship with Maiden. She kind of gets to reclaim those parts of herself that in Mother, she's holding all the plates and she's people pleasing and looking after everyone else's needs. And she hasn't necessarily had the time to do that in her work. And some of the stuff surfaces, around that menopausal portal for women to reclaim if it comes knocking on the door for them. And that can often be, the big event, the cataclysmic thing that forces you, it brings you to your knees. But if we just go back a bit, so your maiden, how many people have actually done a rebirth journey to
Mm.
actually really look at what they agreed to on a soul level and be able to be at peace with that as to what they incarnated into, how they chose this life, these parents, this sibling dynamic, what was going on for them during the very, very formative, even on in terms of epigenetics and, cellular biology, they're only just really understanding the power of what happens in that incubation of, the pregnancy in terms of the genetic expression, in terms of,
Mhm.
did you feel welcome? What was going on between your parents? What was their relationship to abundance,
Yeah.
stress? What was going on? Also knowing that you were an egg inside your mother's womb as she was inside your grandmother's womb, it's like we're holding intergenerational trauma, but we actually have a cellular, link to whatever our grandmother was experiencing,
Yes.
wars perhaps. So it's huge. So that's the biggest rite of passage, I think, that is the most formative, that people can get just such a deep sense of belonging from when they repattern their birthing codes. And their relationship to the placenta. There's a whole like, month-long journey you could do with that. And then menarche is the next huge one. And it's often something that, we're just in survival, aren't we? We're just getting through. We
Mhm.
don't have the consciousness. We haven't got our adult self, strapped to our back to sort of really guide us through that. So we're just sort of constantly reacting to what's going on and, let alone what, you're interfacing with in terms of what the outer world is saying what you should be doing, or what, is the norm. So just navigating, a journey around reclaiming your pristine innocence, your love of your body, your confidence. So often around that time, the feminine voice is shut down. So that expression of your sacred rage, not kind of becoming the mummy's little helper and daddy's little princess,
Mhm,
just
mhm.
actually really kind of taking that wild spirit of your maiden. She is wild, and recoding her, bringing her back into wholeness where she didn't feel safe, where she didn't feel heard, where she didn't feel honored or celebrated or safe. All that, stuff that goes on around the peerage and the peer group at
Yes.
that time, like, did you develop before, after, all of that stuff we inherit around a body shame. And ultimately the codes that come online around menarche are the codes around your relationship to your menstrual cycle, around your relationship to your body and your relationship to your sexuality. They all come online at that time.
Mhm.
And so if we've actually just ingested layers and buckets of shame and confusion and disconnect around that time, that is going to course your map for your relationship to your womanhood, codes for the rest of your life, until you actually start to look at them and unpack them. So it's going to code your menstrual cycles. It's going to code your fertility journey, your pregnancies, and all the way through to menopause. So that's kind of maiden. And then, whether you become a mother in your 20s or your 30s, your mother codes do come online, obviously through the portal of childbirth. But
Yeah.
really, in terms of that fullness of expression, it's like the full bloom, the summer, the full moon, whereas maiden is the spring, the new moon.
Mhm.
So mother is that you've got the capacity to just hold so much and to spin those plates and birth your projects into the world. And, you're not so fazed by, the little stuff, or the kind of like, the dragons that
Yeah.
might pop up in your queen years, or that stage of the cycle, which is, obviously mother is, I'm probably doing this all wrong, but, if you can just hold with me, yeah, mother is that the summer, the ovulation stage. So
Mhm.
spring would be your inner maiden, your pre-ovulation, your follicular phase. Queen would be the luteal phase, the waning moon,
Mhm.
autumn. And then crone would be your menstruation, your winter, the hibernation.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so often we value the expression of the yang, the maiden and the mother, the spring and the summer, the doing and the achieving. And what can happen is we kind of live the whole cycle in that energetic and forget that the queen, when she's rising up as a white hot dragon, she's actually got a really strong message for you to, what's not okay, what didn't happen, what's not in alignment, where did I self-abandon, where did I, let go of my sovereignty and my self-care priority. And so the queen will rise up and bite you on the bum if you haven't actually sort of tended to, that
Mhm.
waning yin coming in sovereignty, solo creativity time in the cycle. And, similarly in menopause, perimenopause, all sorts of things. So the wheels fall off the bus if there's something you really are avoiding, that, your timelines, your life plan is like, no, we've got to anchor this in, and you haven't done it by then. So yeah, queen is like a real reckoning, but there's so much gold there, because in a way you're moving to that point in the cycle where you're holding your gold inside, and for some of you maybe listening to this and what gold, menstrual blood is like, menstrual blood has got the frequency of living light. It's the only blood that is shed that's not a wound and that's actually life generating. They know that the stem cells from menstrual blood are just like, life-giving elixir to, any wound, any balm, can be, met with, the frequency of that and the attunement to the beauty of the cycle, and that this is sacred. This is a sacred, bleed. So this queen energetic, she prepares you for that, but she's also about, saying no, having those clear, strong boundaries, the sacred no, the sacred rage, being able to just dissolve anything that's not serving you, all the toxic stuff, all the places where your energy leaks, whereas in Mother, you'd be like, oh no, come on, I can do it. Yeah, come, let's do it.
Yeah.
In Queen, she's like, no. And in that stage of the cycle, you get that too. Like, I'm not available for this. Like, whoop, there's just no questioning. And then she prepares you for that deep inner wisdom of Crone, where you just are invited to drop deeply in to the stillness, to commune with those source codes, spirit, and meditate and really anchor into your medicine that is then going to, as you rebirth again into your next spring, your next stage of the cycle, is going to carry that wisdom, and you have more of a plan, that's actually in alignment with your life, rather than just like bumbling through and, every day is the same. So yeah, in a nutshell.
So beautiful. I think that that's so helpful for women to learn, because I think that that's really the starting point of learning that the magic of the womb is that she is never the same. And that goes back to, we get so identified with our yang or with our masculine. The men have the 24-hour cycle. They do have the capacity to wake up and hold a container that's the same. And the women, it's really about learning to flow with the cycles of your womb, of the earth, of your life. You just gave so many wheels and so many archetypes of which we can connect to that will help us to digest life through our bodies and to show up. I love that you said that connecting to the womb will help us to feel more, I think you said juicy. Did you say juicy or depth?
Probably.
I'm pretty sure juicy, because that feels really accurate. Like, that feels accurate to me as someone who, growing up, my cycle felt like such an imposition. Just put a tampon in, take some ibuprofen, act like it's not happening, and like go out there and play sports and do my home, you know what I mean? Do my homework, be on student council, do all these things where it wasn't really honored. My mom didn't have that gift of honoring it. She just literally put me in a bathroom with a box of tampons, didn't tell me how to use them or what to do. I literally was like, wait, what's happening? I didn't even realize I had another organ down there. Like, can you please give me a better explanation of what this is? And, anyways, I went to school and I actually didn't end up using a tampon because I was so freaked out that I had another whole other life down there I didn't know about. So I just used a pad. And I didn't realize that the pad had like a sticky thing that you stick onto your underwear. I just thought you put it at the bottom of your underwear. And I was in 7th grade, so I think I was 13 when I started my bleed for the first time. And so the pad was just sliding all over my underwear all day because it wasn't stuck there. And I remember I went to the front of class to ask my math teacher a question, and I had to bend over to her desk, and my friends were like, Caitlin, because my pad had slipped up and out of my underwear. It was like kind of coming out of my pants. It was the worst first time experience. It was so embarrassing for me. And so just you saying that, I'm like, I carried so many codes of embarrassment and so many, this is such a shameful thing to be happening to me. And also it's just really funny to look back on the day. But yeah, it really is. We really were taught just to be so masculine, and that was where our worth is. And I think our mother phase too has become also so masculine of just birth kids, birth more kids. You can do this. You don't need any rest between having children. You don't need any resources to help you. As the mother, I think the more masculine expression of the mother phase is, you should be able to birth as many kids as you can, and you should be able to do it all by yourself. You don't need any help, and you should be able to do all of it. And I think that that's really soul crushing for the feminine spirit. What did that feel like for you? What was the difference for you between feeling the masculine of realizing you were functioning in a more masculine, and what did that journey, how did that feel in your body when you started to become more feminine? What changed?
What changed? I think, yeah, just realizing, as you're speaking, I'm just recognizing, that the mother, if you kind of conjure up an image of the mother, the
Mhm.
goddess in the form of the mother, is so feminine, but mothering is full on masculine energetics.
Yes. Yes.
And because of my background, her story, that, this is what you did and you didn't complain. And, resting was seen as a weakness, was lazy. I would never say to my mum, oh, I've just booked a spa treatment. She'd be furious or she'd be jealous, bless her heart. But, it was like, well, you can't do that. It was just sort of not done. And so it was about that. It wasn't like it wasn't conscious, but there was a fueling of a subconscious driver of like needing to prove myself and an
Mm.
inability to receive. So the
Mm.
proving is the masculine and the receiving is the feminine. And I didn't know how to receive support. Yeah. So I was chopping the wood while breastfeeding, like just full on in my warrior.
Yes.
But I guess what the medicine of that whole initiation and apprenticeship with Mother Nature was that I got to really drip by drip, year by year, understand how wrong I'd got it and how there was such a dissonance between my feminine, there was just a barren wasteland, I just wasn't able to drop into that. And I didn't know how. No one had shown me how. There'd been no model of self-care, no model of the feminine that I'd received. Hadn't received the codes and the templates of that. So it was just like muddling through. But ultimately, when I'd sort of gone through, well, as I was going through menopause and finally sort of left the toxic relationship and had to 100% sit at the bottom of the ocean and kind of like just full on kind of everything collapse and then rebirth myself from that. I could only do that by prioritizing self-care and looking at that piece where I had been avoiding, and because I'd had spiritual
Mm.
practice, I'd been a Buddhist, a Reiki master, I'd done yoga, crystals, angels, I'd been on this sort of, light worker path. I'd actually just done a big spiritual bypass around this whole piece of
Mm.
avoiding, the pain of abandonment, of various childhood wounds that just came up that just made me jump ship. Oh, that's not going to work. I have to cope. I have to just push through. I have to ignore that signal, that whisper in my body. And so just repatterning that, in my late 40s was actually quite a hard lesson. If I had had the codes of you work with the cycle and no 2 weeks are going to be the same, no 2 days are going to be the same. You'll feel different emotions, different surges, different levels of creativity, different kind of, levels of juiciness or libido. If I'd understood that, and understood that my cycle was sacred and I'd been able to honor that, would have been a whole, a whole piece that I might not have had to journey with. But I guess maybe I'd be a potter or a basket maker. I wouldn't have gone into this, but yeah, I'm passionate about women healing this for themselves. And then because they've actually embodied something, it's not just you read it in a book or you listen to a podcast and you're like, oh, I heard that. Yeah, I get it. I could take something from that. It's actually embodying it, embodying, this beautiful dynamic between your feminine and masculine. And it is self-care. It's not like, oh, I've arrived, I got it.
Yeah.
Self-care, it's like, it's an ongoing, daily, weekly,
Mhm.
monthly, annual journey through life, this balance between the masculine and feminine. And so, imagine if women are able to heal that relationship to their womb, come into balance around these energetics, honoring, the primal sort of, whispers from their womb, if they're menstruating, from the lunar phases, if they're not, from the seasons, and then be able to initiate their daughters and their sons. I gave my son a beautiful rite of
Mhm.
passage of creating his own drum, but initiate these rites of passage so that there's a sort of a sense of like, wow, there's some wisdom here. There's some elders who will hold me through this. There's some knowledge for me to gain. And life isn't all about, what I'm being, conditioned with in the
Yeah.
school system, or, what's out there on social media, and, maybe how my grandparent, what they might value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the ways that you see women in your community or that you experienced spiritually bypassing some of the being in the feminine? What does that look like that you see?
Oh, great question. I think it's, I hope I'm not going to offend anyone, but that
No, go
there's a,
for it.
that
We need it. We need it. We need it. Go full send, Debs. The wild woman shaman codes are coming out. She needs to
I
be.
think what I see is, and I lived it, so I do, I can hold myself with compassion. But is that, I mean, I guess mine was multi-layered, but so I had a Buddhist practice. I had a spiritual practice that was me doing my own inner human revolution. I was always working on myself and committed to my growth and my journey. But what you can get is a little sprinkling of these, light codes, which are all about kind of like up here, and which is masculine, whereas this is, down is feminine, descending down into the earth is feminine. But ultimately, I do a little bit of Reiki. I know where my chakras are.
Mm.
I love my crystals. I've even got a yoni egg. I drink my cacao, da 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 da, all this sort of stuff that kind of has I sit on my yoga mat, of I'm doing the spiritual thing. And look
Mhm,
at my halo.
mhm.
Ultimately, you can think that you're doing the inner work by using these tools and, just bringing them into your week, your day, your month, whatever. But until you actually embody the feminine codes of the dark mother within you and the crone, wisdom that's sitting there, she's not this frightening kind of angry old hag or witchy, warty, crazy woman. She's this ancient grandmother that when you kind of like
Mhm,
feel the mantle of her embracing you, it's like, oh, I'm coming home. And just that need to, or that unplugging from the need to people please, look good, perform, need validation from others. It's actually, it's all about, you don't give a flying monkey about all of that. You are literally, how am I feeling? And that is your code. It's your truth.
yeah.
So, you know, I think it's about dismantling so much of that, what you had to do to feel loved, to feel um, welcomed, to feel, that you were part of the community, the sort of status quo, that whole people pleasing, negating and subjugating and suppressing your own emotions and feelings, and actually just sort of, yeah, disconnecting ultimately from your body.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so the body is the feminine, the mind is masculine, the body is feminine. So it's more and more of that feminine. And I think really, Caitlin, in this age of, AI kind of like craziness, that's the wave that we are in right now and where that's heading, more and more people are going to need this medicine of my body, my breath, my truth doesn't lie. And
Mm,
that is their center, that is the compass. And there's nothing
mhm.
quite like connecting to your womb power to be almost like womb is HQ of your somatic field of your body. So to be able to connect to that and have that as your deep knowing that's fueling, the intuitive nudges that are going to guide you through life to make choices um, to reclaim sovereignty. That's
Oof.
that's really, yeah, what I feel is the medicine and why it's so needed right now.
Yeah, it is so It is so needed. And for the women in my community who are, because there's so many women who are in religion or leaving religion or have left religion, but really carry a lot of those threads of religious programming, oppression, suppression, where we were really only raised to, and this goes along with, and I feel like any woman is that we were really only raised to believe that we were good for marrying. We got to find a husband and we got to birth the children. And like, that is our only role. And so as if you were listening to this and you're like, I don't even know what this means. Like, I don't even know how to get there. Like, it just requires so much love and compassion because, like Deb said, she wasn't shown. And there's not a lot of women in our community in a widespread way who are modeling this for us. And
Mm,
so
yeah.
as we do it, it can feel like you could have feelings of like, I'm taking up too much space. I don't need very much. I just need 30 minutes. I just need 30 minutes by myself. And these are the types of programmings that I feel like it's so essential to look at and be like, is that actually true? That you really only deserve 30 minutes twice a week to be by yourself, you know what I mean? Or to do what you need to do. And also to give so much grace and compassion to our men who are in our lives, as they also were informed by this programming. And they
Mm,
also didn't have men who were modeling to them, like men who really honored the feminine and honored the gift that they are, and that they are not meant to be the same every day. And that there are days where you will have lower energy and that you are meant to dive into that more crone energy and to like really let something die so that something new can be born, or that you need to someday be in that queen energy of like, no, this is not aligned for me in my life. I will not do this anymore. And I see a lot of women bypass their needs by just being like, well, I'm a mom. And I'm a mom and like my kids are the priority, and really hiding behind their children. And I know that no one is questioning if we love our children. No one is questioning if you're a good mom. And to me, it's really about, if you want to be the best mom to your children, you need to be the best woman. And
yeah.
whatever that
Yeah.
looks like for you, if that does need that you need more rest, more support, more help, then you will be the best mom to your children, even if it doesn't look like what everyone else in your community is doing to be a good
Mm,
mom. Which, what does that
yeah.
even mean? If you are a
Yeah.
depleted mom, if you are constantly running on empty, really ask yourself, am I really serving? Like, am I coming from this? I think the healthy expression of the mother is that, like you said, she is full of life. She has milk flowing from her breast. She is able to conceive in the womb. Like, this is not a woman who is depleted. She is life itself.
Mm,
And when she is depleted, and if she has no, you can't give milk. You can't give this love because you are just in survival mode. And there's a thread within motherhood that you kind of, um, there's like an award you get, or like a trophy or something that happens energetically within the community of moms of like, we're just over here in survival. And like, it's somehow like a stamp of like, you're doing good as a mom, of like, that's just the norm of like, look at me, I'm in survival. It's crazy over here, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't subscribe to this. Like,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
refuse to go through my life and raise my boys being depleted and then just being on Instagram being like, I'm in survival. Oh my God, it's just the phase of life I'm in. Like, that feels like such a victim mentality to me, is that I chose to have children and then I just choose to be depleted.
And
um,
no, also, Caitlin, if you continue on that trajectory, you
yeah.
ultimately are going to be forced to kind of taste this really bitter pill of
Mm-hmm,
resentment.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that's when, the sort of queen will come and sort of rattle the cage and shake out all that's not in alignment. And there was something that actually really moved me when I was going through the kind of dissolution. And I was, late to mothering. So I was like 38, 39 when I had Tay and Willow in the woods. And then I was, probably about 41. So not long afterwards started perimenopausal symptoms. And and I'd never sort of honored my cycle. So it was all kind of like, oh, I've got to try and get all this now. But I
Mhm.
remember kind of in that dissolution, as I was going through the tail end of menopause, was just understanding this piece around my children. Actually, they, apart from my presence, they need to see me save myself.
Mhm.
If I've just kind
That
of,
makes me teary.
yeah, if that's the one piece that I could give them as a sort of code, as a template of that they embody, is like, yes, I was in survival. Yes, I gave my power away. Yes, I didn't heed those red flags. Yes, I thought that by looking after everyone else's needs, I was kind of like, shining my halo and serving the world. But actually, I wasn't serving myself. So by them witnessing me saving myself and filling up my vessel from a cup of, that can overflow, taking time out. I love that. If I'm lying on the sofa and my son will come in and go, Mum, so good to see you resting. It's like, shit, I don't do that enough. Clearly I do it when they maybe go to their dads, and I'm like, no, they need to see me doing this. We need to model this,
Mhm.
because they're not going to
Mhm.
get it from anywhere else. The whole system, the education, the communities, they're all wired for push through, ignore the whispers, just like,
Mhm.
achieve, do, produce. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also wanna speak to this piece is that as you come into your power, it makes other women feel uncomfortable,
Oh, yeah.
and they will either look at it and be like, "This is amazing what's happening," or they will look at you and be like, "Who are you? How dare
How
you?
dare you? How
How
dare
dare
you?
you do that? Like, you're not subscribing to what the rest of us are over here surviving." Like, that is true motherhood. That is being a woman. Serve until you have nothing left. That is what this is about. And
Mm,
even I've experienced that my own mom, because I've always really prioritized myself and being nourished. And she's like, this just feels like if you have a nanny, it means that you're rich, and that it means that you're late, like that was just something back in my day that only rich people did. And if you like were kind of lazy, and she's like, in my day, we just did it all. And I just want to hold her and be like, Mom, I actually am trying to not be you. Like, I don't want that life. I saw I saw the effects of that
mm,
in my personal life as a child and in our family, and I want it to feel different. And I
mm,
want my sons to have I love that your son was like, "I love to see you resting, Mom," because our sons, they look for the type of woman who raised them. You know
mm,
what I mean?
mm,
Like those are like we are giving them the templates of the types of women to look for or that is okay to love. And I want to be that type of woman for my sons. We are their first loves. We are the first woman they have an experience with. And so if anyone's going to change the paradigm, it's the mothers. And we have to be okay of letting our men come. Like, it's going to be, sometimes it takes some time for the men to come around because they weren't raised with mothers who were nourishing their bodies, who were taking care of themselves. They were raised with mothers who were continually self-sacrificing, continually sick, continually on antidepressants or anxiety medicine because they were just birthing children, cooking dinners, cleaning the house, birthing children, cooking dinners, cleaning the house. And we're really coming out. I think that we're really at a pinnacle point of coming out of that. And I just feel like so many women are like, how do I do that? And there will be an arc in your journey where it will feel uncomfortable for women to honor that. And there might be a point where you kind of have to fake it to make it, just to be okay, like giving yourself so much love and compassion to just really let yourself soften into your life, soften into the cycle. And it's like the most beautiful, unflowered, like, just feels like you're flowering into a whole new version of yourself. So thank you so much for spelling that out for us, Debs.
so beautiful, Caitlin. And I just wanted to add, as you're speaking, I think, you know, sometimes when you're given this window of I've got a window for self-care. What do I do? We're so wired for the pushing through that
Yeah.
actually we don't know how to relax. We just don't
Yeah.
know how to actually switch off. And I think that we have this image that it's kind of like reclining in a hammock or, just receiving massages all day. It actually could just be that, you know, you feel resourced enough to be creative. And
Mm.
I feel that the kind of grassroots movement of women's circles, of women gathering, just like you'd go to maybe a gong bath once a month or a yoga class or a dance class or something,
Mhm.
to go to a women's circle once a month where there's a beautiful sacred space that's held and everyone just gets to share into the fire, into the sacred fire. What happens is, that there's this amazing release of oxytocin. And generally afterwards, there's this spaciousness that opens up. And the ability to feel resourced and then create from that. So this juiciness and this creativity and this feeling like your cup is full. So it doesn't have to be that I've got to plan, you know, 3 hours
Mhm.
of, lying in the hammock kind of thing. It could be that it actually starts with, a sacred space that's in a community with other women, and that starts to fill you up. And then that feeds into another little kind of micro moment of taking yourself for a walk that's not just about walking the dogs or not just about getting from A to B, but actually just you being in nature, just almost like the kind of like the meandering, the wandering without a kind of like aim to it can start to open up when we take some action, whether that's a women's circle or, yeah, a gong bath, whatever it might be, that's
Mhm.
something
Mhm.
that is. And I would say that actually, looking back, when we were living in the woods, we had this beautiful goddess temple. I tried all the sort of herbal supplements to sort of, regulate my cycles and they were getting very heavy and like really erratic. And the herbs didn't touch my cycles. And I was kind of feeling this like white hot dragon that would kind of like rise up if
Yeah.
anything was, you know, remotely sort of, uh, getting to me in the day. And it would invariably be taken out of my beautiful children, be constantly apologizing. But ultimately, when I started in this goddess temple, there'd be things that I wasn't, just running. So, beautiful conscious dance once a month or gong baths or, just gathering with women. When I started to really fill up my cup, all of those symptoms just completely regulated themselves. It was amazing. So in a
Mm.
way, there was such a deep lesson for me around that. It wasn't just about, can I take the right herbs? It was actually, can I live my life in a way that's aligned with what my queen is fucking banging on the door and saying, we need to embody this, to get us through
Yes.
into Crone and the rest of your life. We need to stop this right now because you're going to just burn out. This needs to be in place. And so that was such a deep, lesson, a deep lesson.
Yes, it really feels like you're moving from this space where you're at the front of the body, this very masculine, like, go, go, go. I need nothing, to this back of the body. I fall into the throne of my queendom, of my queen of my body, and I receive.
Mm, mm,
And that it takes time. It takes a practice to get there, but it's the most nourishing place. And I feel that as I've practiced moving into that space to this, what the queen, I feel like that's what the queen is calling us to do. Like she's saying, stop, like stop being out at war with everyone, using your mind and like sit into the throne of your womb of who you are and relax and let life move through you and like let the goddess move through you and create. And it's just kind of like you become this hollow bone that
mm,
instead of having to figure everything out and plan and organize and execute and prepare and give, it feels really like when we do that, we really, yeah, I just keep getting, as you were saying that, I'm like, she stepped into the throne of her body, which means that she just relaxed into the back of her body. And now spirit can move through her and organize her life for her without you having to think of every little thing that you need to do. And it really is such a magical place that the feminine, that's where she belongs. That's her role.
Mm.
And it's not a privilege. It's not something that just some women get to experience. Like, it really is our divine inherent birthright that we get to experience that. Like, that's what we were made to do. So, wow. Well, I know that we wanted to do one of your, do we feel complete with this conversation? Would you still like to
I
do a
think
womb activation? Or
I
how are
think we
you
could do a little
feeling?
womb activation just to sort of,
Okay.
yeah, wrap this
Just
up
like wrap it up.
and allow people to just
The energy field.
experience, a connection to their womb that might feel slightly different from what how they've connected their womb before. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do it. Has the most beautiful activation for us. So I'll let you take it from here, Debs.
Okay, so just gonna bring my drum in. So if you're listening and it's safe to do so, just inviting you to close your eyes and take a beautiful, deep, full breath, breathing in and breathing out. Beautiful. And just taking in a couple more deep breaths, breathing in, feeling the cool air in your nostrils, drawing the energy all the way down your spine into your heart and your womb, and exhaling any resistance, any tiredness, and just feel yourself beginning to soften into allowing, into flow. And as you breathe, just inviting you to bring your awareness to the base of your body, base of your spine, your sacrum. Your pelvic chalice, your root. And start to breathe down into your womb space. Bring some energy into your womb space. Just noticing any thoughts, any resistance. Just observing. How would it be if my womb was restored to her sovereign, primal template as the source of my feminine power, my feminine wisdom? And then visualizing in the center of your womb space a beautiful rose. Notice the color of this rose and see her glowing in the velvet darkness of your womb. And know that this rose holds all of the stories of your womanhood timelines through birth, menarche, your relationship to your menstrual cycles, to your body, to fertility, any pregnancies, births, mothering, any experience of perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. And this rose also holds the red threads of your ancestors and all of their stories, your mother line, your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, all the way back to the first grandmother of your lineage. Take a breath. And this rose also holds the codes of your shining, innocent, gentle inner maiden, playful, her lightness of being, the codes of your juicy, fertile, wild sensuality, bountiful mother, lover, the codes of your sovereign, majestic, graceful, boundaried, strong queen, the codes of your wise, ancient crone, the codes of earth, fire, air, and water, the codes of the cosmic womb of all creation. And this rose also holds within her heart the seeds, the dream seeds of your sacred intentions for your life. Just feeling into them now, what you're calling in, what you're deeply longing to embody, to experience and manifest. Breathing into this beautiful, creative cauldron of your womb, and this beautiful, glowing rose, radiant, soft, and then from the base of this rose you see a beautiful thornless vine that extends down through your cervix, through your yoni, past your moon petals, down into the earth. Connecting with the earth, with the roots of the standing ones below the earth's surface. Feel how they witness you, honor, value you, support you. See this rose vine now as a beautiful scarlet beam of light extending all the way down from these tree roots through all the layers of the earth, deep down, 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 spiraling down into the center of this planet, into Gaia's womb, with her molten rock, lava, magma, liquid iron. And wrapping around Gaia's womb, receiving her mother love, a transmission of the support and nurturing, the creativity and flow, the abundance that you are calling in, that you need right now. Receive these gifts as your birthright, with unconditional love from the Great Mother. And then drawing that energy all the way back up, spiraling up, spinning and spiraling up through all the layers of the earth, back past the tree roots and back inside your womb space. Receive it, feel it, breathe it in, take a breath. And then bringing your awareness to the top of your womb, visualizing a beautiful golden beam of light spiraling up your spine, igniting each chakra, spilling out through your crown, and filling your auric field in a beautiful, glowing ball of light. And feel yourself now lifting up inside this ball of light, above the ceiling, the roof, any clouds, higher and higher above the Earth's atmosphere, beyond the moon, the stars, the sun, beyond this galaxy. Higher and higher, deeper and deeper, beyond this universe, to a beautiful band of golden lights. Passing through these golden lights to a membrane of rainbow-colored lights. Passing through the membrane of rainbow-colored lights to an expanse of pure white light. Source-coded white light. And feel the golden ball of light around you dissolving as you now merge with this white light, higher and higher, deeper and deeper, bringing online your infinity source-coded spark, your multi-dimensional beingness. Higher and higher, deeper and deeper, to the center of all creation. And now merging with the liquid black light of the cosmic womb of all creation. And receiving a transmission from the cosmic womb of all creation. An activation to bring online the codes, the gifts that you need right now to steer your life, to navigate the way through as a woman in a body in this lifetime, as a mother, a daughter, a friend, a wife. As a boss, a worker, bringing balance, joy, peace, ease, flow, harmony, deep embodiment of your feminine power. And then bringing that light into the very fabric of your being as you spiral all the way back down, 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 spinning and spiraling through time and space, all the way back down. In through your crown, down your spine, and back inside your womb space. And just feel yourself now holding that trinity between your womb and Gaia's womb, your womb and the cosmic womb. Receiving this as a transmission, allow it to ripple out into your life, into your consciousness, into your womb. In love and light, in love and light, in love and light. And so it is.
And so it is. And so it is.
And
That was
so
beautiful.
it is.
Thank you. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful transmission. What a gift that will be to everyone, and to be able to go back and replay it multiple times.
Wonderful.
Ah,
A pleasure.
I love
Real
you,
pleasure.
Debs. Yes. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? I'm sorry, I have a little frog
So
in my voice
yeah,
today.
oh, don't worry, I've just come out of a cold. I'm mostly on Instagram as Deva
Okay.
Pathways, Deva Pathways. Um, my website is also Deva Pathways, and I run a beautiful Seasons of the Goddess membership and program, like 6-month programs, group programs, one-to-one private mentoring. Most of them are kind of pretty much infused with this quantum womb healing, which is something that I kind of brought through, that really sort of is a hybrid of that sort of light and fairy dust quantum healing and the shamanic, earth codes. So you've experienced, that medicine. So that, yeah, it's earthy, it's magical, it's deeply embodying. And I also run an apprenticeship, which is a year-long apprenticeship with womb. Ultimately, as you journey through the seasons and through the 4 feminine archetypes. We journey with Maiden in spring, uh, Mother in summer, Queen in autumn, and Crone in winter. And it's a deep dive. So that's just for 7 sisters. So yeah, I'd love to keep in touch. I sometimes do beautiful, magical, free workshops and things as well, if you want to. And also on my website, there's a slightly longer version of that transmission that I just shared. And you can download that and just have that kind of, playing. Yeah.
And I will link all of those. I will link her website and Instagram below. And Debs is such a magical, wild earth guardian. And she really does well at embodying the straddling of being a human and walking in her divinity so beautifully. And I'm grateful for you and the impact you have had on me and my life and my womb, Debs. So thank you so much for your magic today.
That's the best. That's the best. Yeah. Amazing.
I
Thank you
love
so much,
you.
Caitlin. It's been so gorgeous. I wish
Yes.
we could now just sit and have a cup of tea.
I know, me too. Me too. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode spoke to your heart, please share it with another woman on her journey. And until next time, stay rooted in your humanity and devoted to your becoming.